Assalamu alaikum. Mr. Moderator, our distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, our friends and our enemies.
Wassalatu wassalam, wasallam. In the name of Allah, and the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His last and final messenger. Family, friends, foes, haters, and hateettes, welcome back to the Feachaz. I greet you all in peace and love with no hatred in my heart. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So before we begin, please like, please subscribe, and please share. As you know, we got a lot of haters up in here. And, you know, we've been talking about this particular issue like for years now. For years and years. Okay? About when you start taking sides within this left-right paradigm, eventually you're going to be seen as that. For the better part of 30 years, immigrant Muslims have been heavily siding with left-leaning politics. Heavily. So much so that they even took up the jargon of these left-leaning politicians. Okay? They start copying their jargon. So when these left-leaning liberals start talking about homophobia, here come the Muslims talking about Islamophobia. And we always said, you cannot take the jargon of the enemy and try to keep it as your own. You can't do that. Because the second you start doing that, they're going to expect something from you back. And the day has come exactly how we predicted, that now these very same liberals that Muslims have been aligning with themselves with so hard for the last 3 decades have now come and said, well, look, the Muslims are the new white supremacists. They saying that stuff now. And we told y'all this would happen. We told y'all this would happen so many times. And now it's finally here. We just pulled this article up. 1 second, y'all. We told y'all the thing is with particularly foreign Muslims, you know, these immigrants and whatnot, they are so eager to get close to Zaddy and them that anything that Zaddy tells them, they just do, like, wholeheartedly. They don't even question. They do not even question. Okay, let me just try to find this article. 1 second, y'all. Here we go. So I'm going to share this article with y'all. 1 second. What is this now? Okay, here we go. This is so crazy, man. So here you see, okay, Democrat Maryland official says Muslim children aligned with white supremacists over opposing LGBTQ curriculum. We told y'all this was going to happen. We said this very clearly, and now it is here. Islamic religion freedom advocate tells Fox News Digital he was stunned by Democrats' comments. Okay, Democratic member of Maryland City Council blasted Muslim children as on the side of white supremacists after they spoke out against sexuality discussions and materials in classrooms during a heated school board meeting Tuesday evening. Look at here. Those of y'all who've been Muslim for a long time, you know very well that when they started teaching about homosexuality in schools and stuff in the West, they started with parenting classes. That's how it started. It started with parenting classes. Then it escalated to health classes. These health classes, right? So it started off with parenting, right? How to be good parents. Then it escalated to health. This is the evolution of this now. Because when you're subverting a population, you can't just come with your nonsense all at once. You got to go incrementally. Okay? So first they started with the parenting, then they started with sex ed, sexual education, right? And sexual education included dating and courting and these type of stuff. You know what I mean? And how to pick a mate, these type of things. This is how it started. Okay? Trying to teach children this stuff. Then eventually it escalated to the sex ed escalated because this was during the AIDS era. So now they're starting teaching children how to wear condoms, safe sex, you know what I mean? Different parts of the body, you know? This is an erection, this is a, whatever, right? They'll teach the private parts of the female anatomy and whatnot. They're teaching this stuff in school, okay? They're teaching it as an educational thing. Then eventually, it escalated again. Those of y'all who are old, you remember this, right? It escalated to teaching different types of sexuality in the schools, right? What different types of sexuality? So it started off with, first they started with the homosexuals. A homosexual is something like this. And even at that time, when they were teaching this in school, they weren't teaching it as if it was a normal type thing, but they were teaching it. You had your homosexuals, and you had your bisexuals, and then you had your straight people, right? That was it. That was it. Then, eventually, they started trying to normalize homosexuality. This is more in your 90s era, because in the 80s era, what was going on? What was happening in the 80s? In the 80s, it was about AIDS. AIDS was really big in the 80s. HIV, people were dying left, right, and center from AIDS. So they want you to get your condoms, your birth control, this kind of stuff. In the 90s now they start getting into the homosexuality stuff, right? Back then it was called homosexuality. It wasn't called no LGBT nothing, okay? Only the black imams, they were the only ones who were addressing this stuff. Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick would regularly talk about homosexuality. Regularly. Let me show you something about Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick, okay? Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick talked about homosexuality on a regular basis, And he would go Quran, Sunnah, you know, talking about the differences between the Qawmul Lut mentioned in the Quran and the Abrahamic faiths compared to the Lawat of today. This is how he would word it. And he would always say in his lectures, all the time, he would say, at the time of Lut, alayhi salam, he would always say this. He said, they would tell Lut, the prophet, they would say to him that we are doing this because we like to do it. Now, in our time, people are saying that we are born like this. This is what he said. He would always say this. Okay? So Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick, he would always say this. And eventually, it got to the point where he ended up in the media. And what did the media say about him? Y'all want to know what the media said about Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick? Let's look. One second, y'all. This is what CBC said about Sheikh Abdul Hakim Quick. Okay? Toronto Imam says he is changed man despite homophobic comments on YouTube. Why? Another tries to fight hate in Islam. A video of shocking damage is done. Okay? A prominent Toronto Imam who has signed 2 declarations against the shootings in Orlando appears to have recently posted a YouTube video saying gay men should be put to death. But Abdullah Hakim Quick, a teacher at the Islamic Institute of Toronto in Scarborough, said in a statement that he's a changed man. Many years ago, I made hurtful comments against homosexuals for which I've apologized. My views have evolved over the years. I'm fully committed for peaceful coexistence and I respect among all people, he said. Why did he do this? Why? Y'all know why? Because when he was giving these lectures time and time again, and when the government was dropping the hammer on Dr. Bilal Phillips, on Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick, and they were dropping the hammer on these imams. Where were these immigrants to be found to defend these imams? Where were they? Where were they? As a matter of fact, the very same immigrants who have the bravado that stand up against LGBTs today, those immigrants back then were siding with the LGBTs. So much so, now you have the first generation, second generation, third generation Muslims now. So much so you have a large portion of the Muslim community who are incredibly left-leaning and moderate. Incredibly left-leaning and moderate. Why were they siding with the liberals? It's because the liberals let their parents into the country, into the Western stuff. It was them who let them in. And they were trying to secure the bag. And up until this very day, you find these very same butter biscuits inviting non-Muslim politicians to speak at every single Eid. Every single Eid, they got to come. Because they out there securing the bag. Very educated immigrant Muslims. Educated. And they know how to secure the bag. They know how to do that. Very well. So now, what we have here, almost in the fourth generation of these immigrant Muslims, you see, this is how they work. If Zaddy tell them it's okay, then they become brave. They don't move unless Zaddy tell them to move. So if Zaddy never said, and if Zaddy never stood up against the LGBTQ agenda, if Zaddy didn't say it, they would not be standing up against the LGBTQ agenda. Because they out here trying to secure passports and land and jobs and education, all that kind of stuff. They ain't trying to go back to their bombed out and depleted countries. They're not trying to do that. So here we have, finally, some immigrant Muslims with some backbone. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder why. It only took them about 30 years. But they had to follow the lead of who? White people, of course, as usual. They have to wait for their lead. They had to wait for their lead. Just like they had to wait for their lead when it came to the war on terrorism. Y'all remember that? Remember the war on terrorism? Who remembers that? The war on terrorism, which is really a war against Islamic lands to secure massive amounts of petrol and military contracts. Ridiculous amounts of military contracts. That's when we started seeing not Islam means submission to the will of Allah, but Islam means peace. That is when Islam started meaning peace. Why? Because we got to make Zaddy and them feel safe. You get it? We don't want them to be afraid of us because we are really afraid of them. So Islam became peace around that time. And then you started hearing lecture after lecture after lecture after lecture after lecture after lecture. Every Jummah, every conference. Who remembers this? They had to talk about Islam is peace. Islam is not terrorism. We denounce terrorism. We denounce. We denouncing. Meanwhile, Muslims in Iraq, Muslims in Afghanistan, Muslims in Somalia, Muslims in Kashmir, Muslims all over the world, you name it, Syria, they were being thoroughly terrorized by the same people that you are trying to convince that you are not a terrorist to. The very same people. These people were terrorizing Muslims in their own countries. Up until this very day, Guantanamo Bay. Who remember Guantanamo Bay? Who remembered the Patriot Act? Who remembers all this? folks are the ones you're trying to make feel comfortable. It's them, these folks. And you can imagine, all these years, you are calling Republicans anti-Islamic for going into Muslim lands, terrorizing the people in all kind of Muslim lands, like ridiculous amounts of violence up until this very day. Look what's going on in Sudan. Look what's going on in Ethiopia. Look what's going on in Libya. Look what's going on in Yemen. All of these wars, which were funded and started by the very same right-leaning politicians that you love so much, to have liberal politicians turn around and call your children white supremacists. And guess what? The ironic thing is that, yes, these Muslims are in fact accepting white supremacy. That's the ironic thing. They had years and years and years and years to take a firm stance against homosexuality when it wasn't popular. I only remember the black imams all the time speaking against this. All of the time. And when the black imams got put in the spotlight by these devilish white media moguls, whether it be CBC, as you see here, or CNN, or whatever it is, because propaganda is, in fact, warfare. And so your enemy will never tell you anything good about yourself. And even if they did, they are doing it because they have an end goal in mind. They don't think like you. They do not think like you. Like these liberals who are cool with you saying Islamophobia after they made up homophobia. Why they do that? Why is it that these liberals are at every single protest for Palestine, protest for Syria? Why are they always there? Why? Because they expect y'all to turn up when it's gay pride parade time. And yes, there is a large Muslim contingent that always turns up when it's gay pride parade time. I see one of them on TikTok. What am I talking about? They're making fatwa now. The TikTok muftis and stuff. They out there making fatwa and stuff, okay? Question. Can a Muslim woman take off her hijab in front of a trans woman? Answer. Yes, a Muslim woman can take off her hijab in front of a trans woman. TikTok muftis now. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So you're only brave if the members of the dominant society align with you. That's it. That's the only time you're brave. Even if those same members are the very same people that made your parents refugees in the first place. You don't care. And so the Prophet Muhammad SAW, he predicted these times. He said that you will follow those who came before you step by step and inch by inch. Even if they crawled into the hole of a lizard, you come right behind them and crawl into the hole. And then he was asked, Ya Rasulullah, you mean the Jews and the Christians? He said, yes, who else? Who else? That's y'all. That's y'all. You might not like to hear it, but it's the truth. You might not like the way I say it, but it's the truth. There is no, Zaddy can do no wrong in your eyes. No wrong. And now you have Muslims who are pointing the finger at black people. Like we are the inventors of white supremacy somehow. And victimizing the oppressors and making the victims making the oppressed the victimizers. Can you imagine? Muslims doing this. CRT is irreligious. Victimhood mentality. Can you imagine? What kind of wickedness has to go through your brain to reach that level? You have to be a really evil character. A truly, truly despicable, evil, wicked character. To not just gaslight the victims of oppression, but telling the victims of oppression you have a victim mentality on top of that. At the same time, exonerating the oppressors. Let's watch this, y'all.
Hey, Georgie. Hey, Georgie. Hey, Georgie.
Sorry for the commercial.
Hey, Georgie. Just wanted to welcome you to the team with this little.
This issue has unfortunately does put some, not all, of course, but some Muslim families on the same side of an issue as white supremacists and outright bigots. And
how long we been saying this? You didn't come you've been here for how many decades? And you decide that when white supremacists now get the limelight, and they now have the power, and they now have, the momentum in social media and whatnot. Now, all of a sudden, now you out here fighting the LGBTQs and stuff. Whatever happened to, I support the right for gay men to get married, all kind of stuff. All this madness y'all been talking. I was telling a brother today, actually, right? I remember going to the messenger one day, and this individual was giving a dawah seminar. Okay? In the mesh, he's doing this in the mesh years ago, okay? Before it was popular to start doing this now. And he's talking about how Islam is compatible with evolution. Compatible with evolution. And just because Allah mentioned Adam and Eve in the Quran, it doesn't negate that perhaps some humans evolved from some other species of animal. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? And he's teaching this in the masjid. And he's also saying that we need to refute atheism. Atheism? Are you kidding me? Because these Muslims that come overseas and stuff, they see the dominant society in their arguments, and they think the dominant society arguments happens to be our argument. It's not. It's not. Even recently, I would say about two years ago, here in Ottawa, I met a brother in the masjid. I met the brother in the masjid. He's telling me, he believes in evolution. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Even evolution as a theory is totally ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous theory. It boggles the mind. You know what I mean? And the only way evolution works, the only way it works is you give it time. The more time you give it, the more plausible it becomes as a theory. And we say as Muslims, give it as much time as you want. It's a ridiculous theory. Totally ridiculous. But I digress. That's a different topic altogether. That's a different topic. The point is that if white folks say it, you believe it. That's it. That's all it comes down to. And now there's a new religion. You see, this lady, she's a Democrat, right? She is saying that the Muslims, these Muslim children, are aligning themselves with white supremacists, which happens to be true. But what she doesn't know is that the immigrant class of Muslims has always been a tool of white supremacy. Always. Let us be clear today. Just because you are a liberal, that doesn't exonerate you from being a white supremacist. As a matter of fact, liberals are a very important tool of upholding the system of white supremacy. Without the liberal, there would be no barrier between the white supremacists and those who oppose it. Liberals are used to divert the pressure against the white supremacists by calling it inclusion. So they're very necessary. Otherwise, the entire world would see very, very clearly who the white supremacist is, and they would just fight them. But you need the liberal to uphold the system. And Malcolm X, Rahmatullahi alayhi, Al-Hajj al-Malik Shabazz, he astutely described the white supremacist. He said that the white Republican or the white conservative is a wolf and the white liberal is a fox, and you are the sheep. And the only difference between the wolf and the fox is the tactics they use in trying to get their meal. The wolf will just attack you right away. But the fox is cunning. The fox will smile in your face and make you think that they're your friend until they're ready to make you their meal. So how is it that Muslims who have the Quran, who have the Sunnah, who have the understanding of the pious predecessors, how is it that you people who claim to believe in Allah and His Messenger and the Yawm al-Qiyamah, you claim this, and you insist on upholding and uplifting and even repeating and inviting those wicked people who are in the system and even the system itself. You uphold the system. You leverage the system against the Muslims. You repeat their talking points. You don't repeat what's in the Quran and the Sunnah. No, don't do that. Repeat the talking points of popular social media moguls. Repeat that. Because that's what the kids are watching. So if the kids watch it, hey, we got, as they say, when in Rome, do as that the Romans do. instead of advising and directing the youth towards actual Islamic scholarship and actual Islamic beliefs, you advise and direct the youth to whatever is popular, whatever is popping. And what's popping now is right-leaning politics. That's it. Y'all weren't this brave 10 years ago. Y'all weren't this brave when Barack Obama was president. Y'all weren't this brave when Barack Obama was going to Africa talking about, you Africans need to accept LGBT and stuff. That's when LGBT started. Where were y'all? Where were y'all? When 9/11 happened, I can't even remember how many hijabs came off and beards got shaved. Not by the enemy, but by the very same people that want to wag their finger in your faces, black folk. The very same people. They want to wag their fingers filled and smeared with Zaddy's doo-doo stains because their finger's so far up that Zaddy's butt crack. They want to wag that finger in your face and tell you, why are you playing the black victim card? Those folks. When you guys, black people weren't shaving their beards. Black people weren't taking off their thobes. Black people didn't stop talking about how wicked America was. Black people didn't stop any of that. Could not go to a single Jummah khutbah except that they were blasting Muslims about terrorism. Couldn't go. So afraid. Now your children are all grown up in the West. They have citizenship. They got educated in this system. And they are exactly like your children. They are your children. You are the ones who taught them. You must get a Western education. Western education means you must learn from white folks. That's what all that means. That's a euphemism for you must learn from white folks. What Western education? You're the one who told them that. When y'all was out here getting affirmative action for yourselves, black people can't even get that. Affirmative action is specifically for black people. Black people can't get it, but y'all can get it. Me and my wife and I, we had this conversation so many years from the time we were young. The time we first got married, right? Young black couple. And we're looking at the immigrants. This is in Canada, mind you. Okay? We're looking at the immigrant Muslims and we're like, how are these people, they just got here, they're getting all these benefits, and we're Canadian and we can't get any of this stuff. We're like dumbfounded. We had this conversation so many times. But we didn't understand it. We were young back then. As you grow up, you start reading books, you start listening to lectures, you start looking at history and like, oh, so that's the game. That's what it is. They're supposed to be that. Because they are the evidence against black people. They are the evidence against black people. They are the buffer class. They are the ones who are supposed to go into the black neighborhoods, build wealth for their family, take that wealth back to their own families, send their kids to college with that wealth, and then turn around and say, you black people are lazy. That's the whole game. That's the game. The people who built the West aren't supposed to get anything from the West. Not a single thing. And as long as these immigrant class, they play this game, they will be welcome. As long as they are willing to prop up these demons in the society and keep them in power, they will be protected by these same demons. But the second they start thinking for themselves and speaking for themselves, can you imagine? Look at here. Can you imagine today if I brought Louis Farrakhan to the Feachaz podcast? What would happen? But you got today and this time Muslims inviting open white supremacists to their platforms. Open white supremacists. And then saying, we got a law in common. So yes, what this lady is saying is actually true. Because these Muslims, if it wasn't for the white supremacists, they wouldn't be saying this to begin with. They're not that brave. They're not that brave. They are comfortable now because it's cool now to say it. But what she don't know is that there has always been this pro-white sentiment from Muslims. Outrageously pro-white. I ain't ever heard no Muslims publicly, up until this very day, at least from these large YouTubian platforms, I've heard a single one, not one, denounce Daniel Hakiki for inviting white supremacists on his platform and telling him, yeah, we got a lot in common. Not a single one. I haven't heard a single one of these YouTubian da'i elites, not one, condemn the slavery that's going on in Libya. Not a single one. What's going on in Ethiopia right now? Do y'all know what's going on in Ethiopia right now? What's happening in Ethiopia right now? What's happening in Sudan right now? I've only seen one YouTuber talk about the Sudan issue, and I don't consider that YouTuber from the YouTubian da'i elites. He's just a YouTube brother. He's just a YouTube brother. But I haven't seen not one of these YouTubian da'i elites, not a single one talk about what's going on in Ethiopia, not a single one of them talking about what's going on in Sudan, they won't even mention what is going on in Tunisia. They wouldn't dare. They would not dare. But let one of you invite Louis Farrakhan to your platforms today. See what happened. See what happened. Not even Louis Farrakhan, anybody from the Nation of Islam. Just invite them to your platform. Invite Rizza Islam to your platform. See what happened. Watch them lose their minds. Watch them lose their minds. These folks are so-called brothers. Let's watch this. One second,
y'all. This issue has unfortunately does put some, and not all, of course, but some Muslim families on the same side of an issue as white supremacists and outright bigots. And, however, the folks who I've talked to here today, I would not put in the same category as those folks, although, it's, again, complicated because they're falling on the same side of this particular issue.
Hi, my name is Saad Beg. I'm a middle school student of MCPS. I'm here to talk about the opt-out option for reading material. I'm not here to take away the right of anyone being recognized in the community. I'm here to talk about my rights. My religion teaches to respect all religions and all human beings and their rights. So does my country law. And I want my right back to have an opt-out option. In the last Board of Education meeting, someone said that many people of the LGBTQ community are being bullied. That may have been the case some time ago, but these days it's quite the opposite. There are over 40 kids that I know who don't want to learn this and really want to be here talking today, but can't because they are being bullied. They are the ones being bullied when they say we don't want to learn this.
Although the introduction of texts and discussions related to transgenderism and LGBTQ plus lifestyle may support MCPS's mission to be all-inclusive regardless of race, gender, and identity, I don't believe my first grade and third grade cousins are prepared to read and discuss about such issues at MCPS.
The issue of gender and sexuality are influenced by our faith, and we should not be caricatured as intolerant. And our faith perceived to be subversive because it doesn't align with your beliefs. Intolerance of the faith community threatens to erode support for religious freedom, therefore eroding the benefits it provides for everyone, religious and non-religious. Pluralistic societies that value human dignity and do not view faith communities as a problem to be eliminated will only thrive and prosper. I respectfully request the restoration of the opt-out option at MCPS. Thank you. Takbir.
So we've seen what these young children had to say. May Allah reward them. Now, as Muslims, let me ask y'all something, okay? As Muslims, okay? Is this the correct approach for Muslims, yes or no? I'm asking y'all something today. Let me see in the chat, y'all. Should Muslims be going to meetings like this and asking for the opt-out option in public schools, yes or no? I'm asking. I want y'all opinion. And I put the link in the chat if anybody wants to join me to talk. So Abu Baral, he said yes. He said yes. Okay. Abu Baral is the only one who got an opinion? Okay. Would affect, say yes. Okay. Sister Tika said, no, just don't go. It should have never gotten this far. Bilal say yes. I'd say yes, and I think he's trying to continue. Okay. Now I want y'all to consider any great civilization, any and all great civilizations. Okay. The greatest one in history, probably the Islamic civilization, no doubt. No doubt that Islamic civilization, probably the greatest. Spread the fastest, spread the widest, took over more land and captured more converts ideologically than any other group, right? But I want y'all to consider this, huh? You are sending your kids to the schools of the enemy. This is your enemy. These are not your friends. These are your enemies. And you want to ask your enemy what they should and should not be teaching your children. Is there something wrong with this picture? Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, brother Bilal.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, we can hear you perfectly, bro. How you doing, man?
Alhamdulillah, I'm all right, man. It's been a while.
Alhamdulillah,
Salaam alaikum to
jazakallah
everyone
khair.
else who's watching and listening as well. May Allah
Jazakallah
bless
khair.
you and reward you with the best in this life and the next.
I mean,
Alhamdulillah.
you too.
No, I was going to say, uh, to echo what the other brothers are saying, I'm saying yes, that it is something that needs to be done, not because it's all that we can do, because I said yes and I came online to be able to express the and. I think it'd be too long to type. We, as a people, as a community, as an ummah at the moment, we're in a position of weakness in this situation. And so from where we are in this battleground, that is one of the few options we have available to us. But that doesn't mean that we relax on that. We should be organizing, strategizing, and making ourselves get to a position of power and influence to then be able to enact what you're talking about, right? So from with the cards that we're dealt currently, our only option is to try to petition to the powers that be. But where a lot of Muslims seem to fall short is that they seem, and I think it's a human condition where you have like a messiah complex or something, where you see like you put all your hopes into one person or into one strategy, and then get lazy behind that and say, oh, that didn't work, oh, we can't do anything else. No,
Yeah.
we need to be focused on like not just that. So yes, and because if it is that we get that, we still need to be thinking, okay, they still have the power. Just like you have this YouTube channel, right? You're getting the message out on YouTube because this is the way people will receive that message, right? But YouTube can demonetize you. They can strike your channel. They can do all of
Which
this
they
other
have
stuff, which they
done,
have
and
exactly.
they have demonetized me now. So I'm happy that you brought this up. So the people are the only ones that can support this channel, right? So I'm
Right,
one dude, all right? So
exactly.
jazakallah
So what
khair.
I'm saying is like your ability is limited by what you're able to do. But then the power move would be like, let's make our own platform. But that's going to take
Yes,
time.
yes,
You know what I
exactly,
mean? The power move would
exactly,
be make your own platform. But until that happens, this is what we're doing. You know what I mean?
exactly.
So similarly, I would say the galvanization of the Muslims there to be able to come together and make a statement like that. The only thing that annoyed me about it is that because they get the kids up reading these statements, and even one of the detractors said this, that they sound coached. So even though some of them really were writing their personal experiences, because it was read, it sounded like they were being dictated to by adults. So it's just a child's voice saying what their parents would be saying. If that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
but moving.
here's what I want to allude to here. Okay.
Mm,
Do you know who doesn't complain about them teaching about LGBTs in the schools and whatnot,
Al
and
Yahud,
they don't have this problem at all?
Al Yahud.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
but
And
they're
why?
they're they're further down the road than us because they've already come together as a community. They've established
Yes,
themselves as a community. They work insularly, and they're not really bothered by that, right? I mean, we could
yes,
do
yes,
that, but
yes.
we're
Now looky here, bro. Okay.
yeah, we're
The
not
thing
monetized
is
anymore, so
with
we could say it as it is in a Tika. Jazakallah
yeah. The thing is with the Jews, right? They have stuck on code, right? With
khair.
what they have done. You understand? And they don't really care which political party is in power because they always vote for themselves, right? They always practice quid pro quo. So whatever political party is in power, they're always going to get what they want. The Jews are like this, the Chinese are like this, right? They're going to get what they want because they are understanding the way that Western politics works. Black folk are still looking at Western politics through beggary, you know,
Yeah.
begging the enemy.
What can you do for me? What can I get?
Exactly,
What can I get?
exactly.
What hand
That's
up?
how we're
I
still
mean,
looking at it,
even
right?
like when we say the Jews or when we say the Asians and stuff like that, they're not they it's easy to think that they're monolithic. They're not. They just stay on code, as you say.
They
Like
stay on code.
they
Yes.
but for
They
us, we're assumed to be monolithic as well, just because okay, we're black. But I think that even that's getting exposed now, where there's the argument of who's really black when it comes to this reparations talk. Like, okay, are Caribbean diaspora or Africans considered black because they've not lived through, they're not descendants of slavery in the same way as Americans have been, like black Americans have been. But that's all divisive, right? We still need to find a code to bind upon. Because I mean,
Exactly.
the Jews bind, like whether they're Ashkenazi or Hasidic or like Orthodox or the Zionists, they all bind upon something, and they all follow like their book, and they have their code based on the practices there, right?
Yeah.
We as Muslims, alhamdulillah, we know that that Islam is reformative. It is correct. It is what would bind everyone. But even within, like, not even within black people, even within Muslims, there's no cohesion on how to follow or what to follow. So there's so much infighting that to establish a base to even derive a code. Subhanallah, like, where do we begin with that?
Yeah. And the other thing as well, bro, is that with when you look at a democratic system, the way that it's set up, right? Democratic systems only respect two things. They respect numbers and they respect money. That's it, right? And if you don't have any leverage on these points, then you are going to get swayed wherever these parties sway you, right? And that's just the reality of the game, right?
Yeah, I mean,
So,
the individuals, so the politicians respect money, the system respects numbers. So like
yeah,
every politician, they fail up. So
yeah,
they could be absolute dog trash as a politician, but at the end of it, they do the bidding of their lobbyists, and when they finish
exactly.
whatever term they're
That's
doing,
where I'm getting at. Muslims came here to participate in that system. They didn't come here to basically leverage the system for their benefit. They came here to participate in the system the same way that black people participate, exactly the same, right? So they look ridiculous. I'm sorry to say, they look absolutely ridiculous, you know, in this system, talking about, you know, going to these meetings and stuff, talking about, you know, respect my rights and stuff. You want your enemy to respect your rights? Are you kidding me? Like, do you not know who your enemy is? Are you really that you
well,
know?
let's analyze the immigrants for a second, right? So like there's more than one type. There would be some that came over here seeking economic gain. There would have been like some of your earlier ones, and then there's some of the latter ones that have come through fear, again maybe with economic intentions, and both of them would probably try to go along to get along, because they wouldn't want to sort of rock the boat and stick out, even if they perceive even if, well, do they even perceive white supremacy to be their enemy or even recognize it as such? Because like we have to remember as well, America is good at one thing in particular, marketing. Like they are good at selling anything. Like, you look at for instance, you look at an advert for some fast food and it looks amazing. You go to the shop and you get it and it's trash. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, Abu Bara. How you doing, man? You're right. Long time.
Walaikum salam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm good, alhamdulillah.
Barakallahu feek.
Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I was listening to your response and the brother response here, and I just wanted to put in my input because I said about yes, the Muslims should go, but there need to be some conditions. The Muslims need to have some conditions. If the Muslim was going to go to a one of these type of programs, if it's open to the public about their opinions, about LGBTQI curriculum, the Muslim must participate in this, but they need to set a tone. And one of the tones they have to set is that they have to let people know that they're not aligning with white supremacists. They need to separate their agenda from the white supremacist agenda, because the Muslims need to understand those white supremacists are the same people who bombed the hell out of their countries. The white supremacists is the one who bombed Iraq. The white supremacists are the ones who bombed Afghanistan. So it's those far right, those conservatives who've been slaughtering, killing Muslims. So they need to have a position where if they're going to go to one of these meetings, they have to let the people know they're not here with the far right. But after 9/11, when 9/11 happened, ICNA, Islamic Circle of North America, who have a large platform, back in the early 2000s, they used ICNA newspaper on the front cover after 9/11. They had David Duke article about how the Muslims didn't do 9/11, but the Jews did. And when I seen ICNA, Islamic Circle North America, put on the front cover of their newspaper, David Duke, one of the black conscious imam that I know named Ayubaki, told ICNA, the president of ICNA at the time, how are you going to allow the head of the white supremacists, the KKK, put him in a front cover article? Front cover article. So it shows you that the immigrant Muslim community, that they are people who are easily influenced by anybody that is white, whether it's the white liberal or the white conservative. I don't care who they are. They align themselves with them. They know that they happiness or the comfortability they're going to have in America is going to be through either one of these two groups, the far left or the far right. That's how they know that's their survival. So that's why when Donald Trump was doing the Muslim ban, them same Muslims you probably see on this platform talking about they don't like LBGQTI, but they were the same Muslims that allow LBGQTI go to rallies and protests against the Muslim ban with Trump. These probably the same immigrant Muslims who was with the LBGQTI community, allow them to come to their protests.
That's exactly what I said. It's the same people who are aligning themselves with the liberals and homosexuals yesterday. Now they're aligning themselves with the conservatives today because it's easy. It's the easy path. It's easy. When it wasn't easy, they were nowhere to be seen. Just like after 9/11. After 9/11, we started, jobs started flying up, beards started getting shaved. Wallahi, those who are old enough to remember, who were the only ones after 9/11 holding it down? Who was it? It was
us, our people.
It was us. Every other people group, they did some funny stuff, man. They did some real funny stuff.
Going legally changing their names.
Yeah.
Legally going to courts, changing their name. Legally. I'm from New York, brother. Listen, they had one of these matches by my house had a legitimate meeting how they need to go to the court and change their name to American names. Wallahi, I went to court and I changed my name to a Muslim name, Muhammad Abdullah, legally. They was going to court, changing their name to John, Jacob, and all of this. Wallahi, I went to the court and I changed my name to a Muslim name.
That was real.
That was real. You're right.
Every single mosque, that has been shot up with Muslims in it, Muslims murdered in the mosque. Who are the people that shot up these mosques?
These white supremacists. The far right conservatives.
Have you ever heard a Negro go up into the mosque and just shoot the people up randomly?
Nope.
But now these very same Muslims want to align themselves with white supremacists and repeat their talking points and then pretend to be brave when it comes to the LGBTQ. Now they want to be brave. Now, because the white supremacists got some momentum going on social media now. They got Rumble. They got whatchamacallit? What are these other
Odyssey, I think, is another one.
Yes, they have different platforms, right? There's one locals. They got locals, right? They got Breitbart. They got all these platforms now, right? Because white supremacists, they have money. The people forget they that they have money. The reason that they were quiet for the last since the civil rights, the only reason why they were quiet since the civil rights movement is because it affected their pockets economically. Because during the civil rights movement, that was the first time in history that people saw the brutality of these demons on TV. And the whole world was calling these white supremacists to task. You know what I mean? Now these same demons want to tell us that we can't talk about our history. Can you imagine? And Muslims are like, yeah, you can't talk about your history. You can't. You can't. Twitter.
Yeah, it's sad, man.
Thank you, Anti-Gravity. Twitter, True Social. Thank you, Anti-Gravity. Thank you, Anti-Gravity. You know what I mean? We out here in the Black Muslim grassroots. You think we think we're ever going to be popular? You think our voices are like, you know, saying the popular things to say? You know what I mean? You know? So why do we do what we do? Why? Because we totally and completely expect our reward only from Allah. That's it.
Establish the hujjah.
Establish the hujjah. You know what I mean? Who is coming to pay us to give this message? Who?
Not just that, who's going to take it up and do this work?
Yeah, who's going to do this work? You know what I mean? But just like, you know, all the Anbiya before us, they were lone voices. You get me? We have a great job in front of us, and we expect a reward from Allah directly. Right? This enemy that is placed in front of us, Allah put this enemy there. Allah made this enemy this powerful because Allah will make his name known through this enemy. And that's what the people are not getting yet. Just like Allah made his name known through Pharaoh, and just like Allah made his name known through Ad and Thamud, these great civilizations, powerful people. Allah made these people great and powerful in order to make his name known, and you will know who Allah is today. You're going to learn. You're going to learn. So it's perfectly fine to be the lone voice as long as you're on the truth. What kind of truth you on repeating what the enemies of Allah are saying and believing what the enemies of Allah are saying and repeating their talking points? What kind of truth is that? Anyways, go ahead, brothers. One of y'all take over for a minute. I'm about to lose my mind. Go ahead.
you know something, right? You know, I noticed with the Muslims in the U.S. from the immigrant community is that, you know, they don't know how to make a party for themselves like the Jews have, right?
Black folk the same way.
In the same way, but
the thing is, as I said before, Muslims, if they look at the black struggle, they're looking at their own struggle, because the same way that the same things that black people went through are the exact same things the Muslims went through, and the only difference, the only difference is that Muslims were brought specifically to be pitted against the black community, right?
But we have to be as black people, Muslims have to be mindful, because we don't want them to pity back on our experience and our cause. No, we have to be mindful, because if they pity back on our causes, like the Hispanic community did, like some individuals from the Jewish community, because the Jewish community at one time were black people, and they pity back on our causes. And then once they got to a certain status because of us, they turned their back to the black community. They don't want nothing to do with the black community, right? After they got rich off of them, Like the Jews got rich off of black folks because black folks and Jews, because Jews were part of the civil rights movement. Some of them, not as a
Well,
collective,
the
but
Ju-
some.
the Jews is a little bit different because they actually exploited the civil rights movement. They didn't actually, there are people who manipulated the civil rights movement for their own specific benefit, right? Because
That's right.
Jews themselves, they've always had money, and they've always had very strong social connections. What the civil rights, well, after World War II, what that did for the Jews, because remember, Jews, at least these Ashkenazi Jews, these European type Jews, right? They would through historically they would go throughout Europe and cause like absolute havoc. Okay, and they would like, because they're always known to be rich people, right, throughout Europe. So they're always getting kicked out all the time, all over Europe, right? All the time they're getting kicked out, right? Right. So much so the European Christianity became synonymous to anti-Jewish sentiment. And when the Spanish Inquisition happened, right, one of the main factors for the Spanish Inquisition was that you had to be pure blood white, which means you couldn't be black, because the black people in Europe at that time, what were they?
Moors.
The Moors.
Moors, and they were what?
Muslims.
Muslims.
Yeah, right. So you couldn't. So they knew that you were Muslim if you were black, and they knew that you were Jewish by your names and your culture, right? So a lot of the Jews, they Latinized, they Christianized their names, and they could kind of just mix with the people, right? Right. So like Christopher Columbus, for example. Christopher Columbus was a Jew, right? His name is not Christopher Columbus. His real name is Cristobal Colon, right? That's his real name. Okay. But anyways, I digress. The point is that after World War II happened, this did two major things for the Jews, right? The first thing that it did is that it established for the first time a specific Jewish homeland that was backed by Christians for them to have this homeland because of their assistance in World War II, right? That's the very first thing. The second thing, when they basically took over the civil rights movement, this legitimized them in the West within politics and within the banking sectors, right? Because they came in and they basically took over this movement, right? And they turned the movement, the civil rights movement. Remember, the civil rights movement wasn't initially a civil rights movement, right? It wasn't initially a civil rights movement. It became a civil rights movement because of Jewish involvement, right? The whole thing with the civil rights movement, it really basically built up steam after the riots in Watts. You get me? And that's when you started seeing the civil rights bills, the voting bills, because one thing about riots, it'll cause white folks to move. The Watts riots, what did it do? It caused white folks to move. The Rodney King riots. Yeah, the Rodney King riots. What did it do? It caused
some people to move.
Yeah.
People to move.
And then even the George Floyd, the threat of the George Floyd riots
caused white folks to move.
George Floyd, and where the majority of the actual protesters on the ground were actually white people.
Exactly, right? That's the language that they understand. They understand the language of violence and chaos. You get me?
And hitting them in the pockets. So
exactly. Hit them in the pocket.
Even the teenagers in Chicago last month. When they were destroying stuff, that got attention as well. I was going to say, like, in terms of our solutions, right? I think we need to start from families, and families build communities, and from that have the strength to have a code to stand on. But then I suppose what the fear is, so like the damage has been so deep. Like we have husband put against wife now because there's feminism and all of that sort of stuff. But then when we have families that can function solidly, and this is another thing, right? This is one of the main points that the Nation of Islam put forward is community cohesion and family cohesion. Like their message, they've been made into such a boogeyman that they're a solid message that could be taken and sort of polished under Islam, like real
Yeah.
Islam.
Yeah, I
They've
mean,
been made nuclear. They've been made nuclear. You don't want to touch them because of like anytime Mr.
I mean,
Farrakhan speaks,
so many
he starts talking
Muslims
about the
became
wheel.
Muslim from the Nation of Islam is ridiculous, right?
Yeah,
And what did black people do? You know, what were they doing in the 90s and the 2000s with the Nation of Islam? What were they doing? What were they doing with the Nation of Islam?
no, I don't know myself. I mean, I
Ignoring
was a
them.
Muslim.
Not just ignoring them, berating them,
I mean, they were in
refuting
the
them, giving entire
right.
lectures. Like all these Muslims are leaving Islam to become nation. Like that ever happened? That never happened. But guess what? Guess what?
A lot of Muslims are leading to become black
Even though there
supremacists.
is no history of that happening, right? It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. You know why? Because of this incendiary behavior that black people have towards each other. They see the Nation of Islam doing stuff, okay? And so much so that even non-Muslims have a great respect for the nation. They don't want to become nation, but they have a great respect for the nation. Non-Muslims don't even know who a Salafi is, bro. They
Yeah,
don't know who that
true.
is. They don't know what that is. You know what I mean? Because there is no history of Salafis going into the community and cleaning it up. The only history that Salafis have is the history of self-incinerating. You know, you have to burn this brother and refute this and this deviant and that. That's the history of Salafi amongst black folk. And that, in my opinion, is totally foreign because Salafi was never like that in the beginning. Right? It was never like that. Salafi in the beginning was community changing. It really was. And then foreign elements came from Britain, from your country there, Bilal.
Yeah, sorry about that.
And that's when everything changed. At that point.
I understand.
You get me? And we
I
haven't been able
wonder.
to escape that. But you will see, because the nation they died off for a while because I don't know if you know, but Louis Farrakhan, there was an attempt on his life.
Yeah,
Right?
I've heard about like a sort of
Right?
poisoning or like
Yeah,
cancer type thing.
they tried
Yeah,
to
yeah,
poison him, and he ended up getting colon cancer. So he didn't give lectures for many years. Okay,
yeah.
all right, and they cut off a huge portion of his colon, and also Khalid Muhammad, he was also same thing. They assassinated him, but he died when he was poisoned. Khalid Muhammad, Dr. Khalid Muhammad. But anyways, the point is, they fell off for a long time, right? Now they're back, right?
Oh
And
my God.
and they haven't said the white man. Louis Farrakhan hasn't said the white man is the devil since 1995. He's never said that since 1995 in any of his lectures, and he's ordered his ministers not to say that as well, right? Since 1995. Okay. And what do Muslims, when they talk about the nation of Islam, what they always say? When they talk about the nation, what is it? Did they say that, many Muslims became Muslim because of the nation? Did they say, the nation cleaned up this community, that community? The nation does a lot of good work. Did they say any of that stuff? What did they say?
They say these people are crazy. They talk about aliens and the wheel and all that sort of stuff. They talk about that the Akida is not right.
But what is the number one thing that they say before anything else? The nation believes what?
Oh, the black supremacy.
Black supremacy and the white man is the devil, right? And they got Negroes all up in the street giving long lectures about the nation and black supremacy. The white man is the devil. While in America and while in Canada and while in Britain, white supremacist countries, Can you imagine? Can you imagine? So your community is getting totally decimated. Drugs, guns, gang violence. You know that rapper? What's his name? Loon. I think it's Loon. Loon is his name. That rapper, right? The one who
Yeah,
became.
Amir. Amir
Yeah,
Muhaddith. Yeah.
yeah. He. I saw a clip of him the other day. Right. He's talking about Philly.
Right.
He's talking about he loves all communities, but in his community in Philly, it's a lot of gang on gang violence, and the gangs are Muslims and Muslim on Muslim violence. I better late than never, I guess. Right? It's better late than never, but at least he's starting to see it too now. You know what I mean? At least.
No,
Who's
he's been talking about it for ages.
But Loon's not originally not from Philly. He's from New York. He's not originally
Yeah,
from
from
Philly.
New York. Yeah, but he's talking about his own people. You know, he's talking about black people, right? That's what he's trying to say. Because when black folks they become Muslim, right? When they become Sunni Muslim, anyways, right? Their go-to move is to try to integrate in some other people community.
People's
And
community, yes.
other
100%.
people's struggles become their struggles. They don't look at their own people no more. You get me? Because they get told that you're black now, you're not Muslim. I mean, you're Muslim now, you're not black. You know what I mean? There's no color in Islam. How many times have you been told that? There's no color in Islam. You know, we don't have no color in Islam. You're Muslim now, you're not black. Leave all those black issues alone, and let's talk about them. How many times have you been told that?
I mean, as well
100 times.
there's also like, I mean, Islam.
That's the first thing you're indoctrinated to.
Yeah.
Islam doesn't replace cultures. It refines cultures, right? But when you live with this self-hate and you live with this, you look at everything as being from your own culture as being backward. You want to strip it off. You feel like as soon as you become Muslim, I found a new home, I found something else to become, and then there's a zealousness that we all go through where like we almost Arabize ourselves a bit and go a bit too far into it before we realize, wait a minute, I don't need to wear a thobe every day. I can dress the same way I dress. It's fine. There's nothing really wrong with that. Like as long as it's adhering to the sunnah, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not only that, I agree with everything you just said. Right, but there's another caveat to that as well, is that black people are the only people after they become Muslim they're the only people that are told specifically to divorce themselves from being black.
Yeah.
That's right.
This ties back to the marketing thing. So like the immigrants, right? But hold
on. I just want to say one thing.
Go for it.
I just want to say one thing. That's especially a part of the initiation with Dawah to Salafiyya is to not attach yourself to being black. I don't know anybody who's African American Salafi never was told this. I know every African American Muslim who's Salafi been told this. Do not associate yourself with your nationality. And this is something that is out there in the Salafi Dawah even today.
Yeah.
That you don't associate with your nationality as being a black person. They're not saying that about Arabs who are Salafi. Arabs who are Salafi, they stick on their nationality. I don't care. I study Islam, brother. I read Arabic books. I read Mashaykh who are Arabs. Some of them, they stick on their Arab social issues. That's the Salafis, same thing. They speak their own language.
In Saudi Arabia, or any Arab-speaking country, really, when you're going to study Islam, they are going to teach you the Arab history.
That's right.
And make it mandatory, whether you're Arab or not.
That's right.
Well, the point I was trying to make with this is that our image as black people, right? What they get of our image is thugs and gangsters and you're Muslim and you're black, you must have become Muslim in prison, you know, like that's their perception of us. So when we become Muslim, to them they're like, oh wait, they don't know, they don't understand they don't care to know that there's a wealth of history of African Muslims like that probably supersedes their history, really. I mean, if we understand that the first hijrah was to Abyssinia, Like
Yep.
Islam was in Africa before it was in Sham, you know?
Yep.
So like they don't have that. They don't understand that about us. And so they think that their perception of what black culture is wholly negative. They don't even think to say, okay, you can retain your culture. There is good in it, and you can refine it through Islam. They say no, you have to abandon that.
Which is why we say here that we are the ones who have to, as they Arabs say, we have to irfa alumik, like raise your knowledge, raise your character, you know, raise your standards. We're the ones who have to do that, man. You can't continue to be at the bottom but speak like you're at the top. You know what I mean? That's outrageous arrogance. You know what I mean? We have to understand where we are in the social ladder internationally. No other people group want us around. You know what I mean? Every other people group just wants to see us clean their toilets, right?
Be their security. Take a
Do
bullet.
their security. Every other people group is like that. We are the ones who are worried about
Maybe
what they
call you a
think
gang.
about us. But when we start worrying about what Allah thinks about us, then everything will change, right? And we always, black people, you know, we always get ourselves involved in movement which is absolutely unnecessary, and we put our efforts in unnecessary movement instead of the movement that is necessary. You know what I mean? Black folk, we know our people, man. We love to argue. We love to argue. You know what I mean? We love to, you know, we want always going to get the last word in. You get me? Black women, subhanallah, subhanallah. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, sisters, but I want to learn, man. Black women, you know, here's the thing, you know, black women will have a child when she's a child, okay? And then she will raise that same daughter, talking about my kids are number one in my life. I care about my kids, blah 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 blah. And if you don't care about my kids, that same mother's child will have a child when she's a child. And that child will have a child, and next thing you know, you have 4, 5 generations in one house: great grandmother, grandmother, mother, and daughter in one house. Each one 15 years apart. How many stories like this?
A whole bunch of them.
And no man in the house.
They make special videos of it on internet, on social media. They show all the grandmoms, this, and no man around. No man.
No man. But who's the father of these children? Who's the father? Who's really the father?
Pookie and Ray.
No, the government, because they're the ones subsidizing.
Government.
They're the ones raising them, putting them in school, all that, indoctrinating them.
Exactly. Right?
That's
Which
right.
now puts in the psyche of the black man that maybe he is an addict, because this is what he heard all his life from his mom. You know, your daddy ain't S, your daddy ain't nothing. You know, you ain't nothing. Just like your dad. You know, this is what we hear, right?
Like the women carry the culture. They promote the culture. They don't influence the culture. They just carry what they have.
Yes, but
So
is this culture though naturally black?
Oh no.
No, of course not. It's something that's superimposed on black people, right? So what is the quickest and easiest path to actually remedy this culture? What is it? Islam.
Really?
But are we willing to actually do the things that, you know, all these unnecessary movements, are we willing to give that up for the benefit of the community? That's the question.
Few of us, Kalilam.
Very few of us. And that's exactly why we're in this situation today. Can you imagine? We were the first ones in the West, not just to, be Muslims. Before any immigrant Muslim was here, there were black Muslims. We were the first ones, we were the first ones to even make dawah. And not just that, we were the first ones to accept Salafiyah. You know what I mean? And not just that, we were the first ones, the very first students in the University of Medina from the West were black men. First, all of this first. You get me? What is the thing that has Islam prevented us, or has our own not being able to steer away from these bad habits prevented us?
I reckon there's an element of subversion there as well. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Because even before Islam, where you have the popular black uprising movements, like you think of Black Wall Street or in Tulsa and all that sort of stuff, like that wasn't necessarily an Islamic movement, but that was black positivity. And then there's subversion. Anytime we get action, there is subversion.
Yeah, of course. Of course, and there will always, we black people, we should know more than anybody else. The second that you gain traction, the second that the Feachaz here, for example, gets 100,000 subs, for example, or the videos start getting, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, if that ever happens. Allahu alam if that ever happens. Let's say, for example, Methalin, we start getting 100,000 views per video here. You don't think that, nefarious forces will try to kibosh that?
Oh, for real. I think this Akhrite movement, all of this Akhrite stuff, is a subversion.
There's no doubt in my mind it is. There's absolutely no doubt. They were writing about this. You know what? Let me just show y'all, okay? Because y'all might think I'm tripping. They were writing about this alliance between Muslims and white supremacists not last year, not the year before, not when Trump became president, but way back in 2007.
Whoa.
Well, exactly. And you mean to tell me that
16 years
all this, let me show y'all, man, because y'all gonna think I'm tripping if I say that. And I'm not tripping. I know exactly what I'm
I'd have been
talking
Muslim 2 years at that point. SubhanAllah.
I know exactly what I'm talking about. If I don't show y'all receipts, you're gonna say, this guy crazy. That's why I always have to bring
fall
receipts.
off. That's why I follow you, bro. You got the receipts.
Let me just try to find this thing for you, man. Let me see.
That's why they can't stop you out, really. It's because you have receipts. They can defame you, they can smear, but they can't deny truth.
Yeah, this is crazy, man. This is so crazy. 2007, they've been writing about this, bro. Let me try to find this thing. 1 second. Let me pull it up. There you go. I found it. 1 second. And you're not even going to believe who's writing this. It ain't no rinky-dinky stuff, okay? If I show you, I'm talking about government documents. And y'all think this is an accident? Y'all think this is an accident? Let me just show y'all 1 second, man. We got CL.
It is an election, yeah.
Give me a few minutes. I'm gonna pull this up, and I'm gonna CL to join us too. Right? Give me a moment.
It is an election year as well.
Yeah. This is insane, bro. 1 second. Where is it?
Yeah, well, I got to bow out soon because it's nearly Fajr time over here.
Oh, mashallah, mashallah. Okay, let me try to pull up this article real quick. There we go. I got it. There we go. All right. So y'all see that, right? What does that say?
Investigation of Office of Justice, SubhanAllah, Department of Justice.
Y'all thought I was tripping. I know what I'm talking about, man. I ain't tripping.
Islamic fundamentalists made contact with white supremacists in the United States.
And what year does that say?
Let's see.
What year
dated 2007, page 85 to 101. Yeah, they published 2007, 17 pages long.
And you know what they were saying back in 2007? You know what they were saying? Look what they say. I'm going to read the abstract. Ready? Although white supremacists, terrorists, and Islamic fundamentalists terrorists share a hatred for Jews and the state of Israel and U.S. government, there is no evidence that they have cooperated in planning or executing a terrorist attack in the United States. My, how times have changed. My, how times have changed. You can't make this crap up, man. This is so crazy, bro. This is insane, man. What's that CL? Let me get the CL up in here, man.
So what are your thoughts? Because remember, maybe last month or a couple of weeks ago, the Mexican brother the Mexican guy that shot up everything and then had white supremacist leanings, and then looking into how many now Latino people are accepting Islam, and then the whole Arkwright perspective as well. How long is it going to be until those two things converge, where you have like terrorist planning mixed with from a white supremacist and a Muslim background? Because normally you hear someone's blown something up and you're like,
that's not the
please
first
don't
time
be
that's
Muslim,
happened.
Right.
That's not the first time that's happened. That's probably the first time you heard about it, but there already was previously a white supremacist Muslim terrorist attack.
Right.
Let me try to find that article. 1 second, okay? So y'all, man.
I'm learning tonight, boy.
Yeah. Man, bro, let me see. Let me try to find that one.
But let me get the best of or better than the world and everything in it. I'll catch you guys later, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
CL, what you got for us, bro?
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. How you doing, bro?
Alhamdulillah. And in anticipation of your show, I posted something on my community page on my over on my platform. Now, I got a short little something I wrote. I got 4 pictures, right? So one picture is a picture of the album from Another Bad Creation, when they had the song called Aisha, right? I got an old school Malcolm X t-shirt. And I got a picture of Rakim wearing a kufi. And I got a picture of Funkmaster Flex wearing a Mecca outfit. Right? Now, Pete, what I said. Let's be totally honest. America didn't know what Islam was or even cared until Black culture, and even more specifically urban hip-hop culture, introduced the terms Salam, Mecca, Allah, Khadija, Aisha into the American lexicon. The first to make the call to prayer in America were African Muslims. Even when African Americans lost their identity, they still named themselves Muhammad, Malik. The first wave of Americans to convert to Islam were African Americans. So any movement, even if it's merely a small online cult like the movement of young immigrants embracing the far right, dismissing Black issues, catering dawah to the dominant culture is not just short-sighted, it is ignorant of the history of Islam in the U.S. and is downright disrespectful. So I stand on what I said. Nobody in America knew or cared about Islam.
And as a matter of fact, the very few Muslim immigrants that were here, when black people were accepting Islam, right? Those immigrants that were here, what were they doing?
Keeping it undercover.
Thank you. And so much so that you got your what's Dr. Oz's of the world and all these other people who nobody would ever believe that they're, who else? Who all these other whatchamacallit, these white-looking Muslims who got, accepted into white society for being white, but you would never believe that they're Muslims. Never in a million years. Right? That's what they were doing. They were trying to be accepted into white society. And then when
they was keeping it undercover.
They were keeping it undercover. Now look at here. This is the other. Look at this. New York Times, okay? What year is this? 2017. Okay? Man in Florida told the police he killed neo-Nazi roommates for disrespecting his Muslim faith. Devon Arthurs, 18, a former neo-Nazi, did what? Was arrested in the shooting deaths of his 2 roommates. What year is this? What year is this? 2017. So just because y'all heard about this Muslim white supremacist, this terrorist attack yesterday, don't mean it didn't happen before. Y'all hearing me? This has been going on. And now you got to understand that white supremacy and Arab supremacy are like stepsisters to each other. What is the difference between white supremacy and Arab supremacy, except one is a white person and the other one's an Arab? And mind you, arguably, Arab supremacy is older than white supremacy. Just like, arguably, the owners and founders of color classism are Hindus. Exactly, the caste system. It's the caste system. You get me? There are Arab supremacists today in Libya enslaving thousands of black Africans, and their Islam is not saving them from these so-called Muslim brothers of ours. Not to mention the legal slavery that goes on in the Arab world, all over the Arab world today. All over the Gulf countries and, even North Africa. Look what's going on in Tunisia today. All of this is from Arab supremacy. And just because it's an Arab, don't make it any less wicked and evil and disgusting and despicable than white supremacy. Go ahead, CL.
You're absolutely right. And if we have this silence that it seems to exist now, because it seems like everyone, students of knowledge, da'is, YouTube personalities, everyone has this unspoken agreement to be silent about this. What it does, what it puts into the minds of non-Muslims is that that's Islam. No one makes a distinction. No one makes it clear that what Arab nationalism and Arab supremacy is un-Islamic. Yeah. So if nobody makes that distinction, the logical conclusion is Islam is okay with it.
Yeah, and I ask Allah to incinerate every single white and Arab supremacist, all of them. I mean, we'll incinerate them all. It's because of these Arab supremacists that every single time now, when we try to make dawah to our own people, they got to tell us about Arab slavery. Every single time. Like we are down with Arabs. They don't know us very well, right? But what happens is they go and talk to the butter biscuits of life. And those butter biscuit apologists, right, are going to be like, well, no, Islam's not like that, blah, blah, blah. We don't make no apologies for them. We hope they rot in hell. What are you talking about? We hope they rot in hell just like the rest of them.
And you know what? It's such a stupid reaction to have silence about it, because we live in the information age, as if people are not going to know. Like if people are not going to, nobody knows that, Ethiopian women are being beaten and raped because they go to be maids in the college. Nobody's going to find out about it.
Yeah.
It's
It's just
it's
ridiculous.
absolutely ridiculous. And they tried to check the excuse is, well, it might hurt the dawah. That's a lie. That's an absolute lie. That's not the reason people are being silent. The reason people are being silent is because of their supremacist ideas and ideology. They don't want Arabs to have a bad name. They don't want South Asians to have a bad name. They don't want these regions of the globe to have a bad name. It's not. They're not protecting Islam. They're protecting themselves.
So I want to say something about the Arab nationalism, because the average African American Muslim might not know, because most of us never lived in a Muslim country, right? So Arab nationalism is taught in our curriculum mixed with Islam in the schools and the universities. For example, I bet I have some brothers listening right now who might say, oh, we don't know what we're talking about, but there's a book in Arabic. It's called An-Nahw al-Wadih. It's an Arabic grammar book. I don't know if you're familiar with that book, Bilal. Nahw al-Wadih. All right, this is a very popular book. I have it. I studied it, right? It's a very popular book on teaching Arabic grammar on the intermediate, beginners, intermediate, and a higher level of Arabic. In some Arabic countries, it's part of the curriculum in the school. If you read the book, I have it with me. It's flooded with al-Wataniya, right? This is Arab nationality related to government and countries, right?
Wataniya means nationalism or nationality.
Yeah. So a lot of the Arab curriculum in their school is mixed with Arab nationalism, mixed with the Islam itself. And this is why some Arabs, they have a problem differentiating between what is Islam and what is Arab nationalism. They taught that stuff together. It's taught together. It's mixed in. Every Arab, I don't care what's their nationality, what country they from, all of them are taught Arab nationalism. Even in the Islamic colleges and universities, they're taught Arab nationalism mixed with the Islam. Some of the more scholars can see the difference between it. Some of them will tell you, oh, this is right here, this is nationalism, it's not part of Islam, all right? Some of them will tell you that. Some of them who study, they don't know. It's part of to them, it's part of the culture, it's part of the religion. Islam is an Arabic language, So Arab nationalism is something that even when we preach Islam, we have to be very familiar, be very conscious about, make sure we're not preaching also Arab nationalism, which a lot of African American Muslims do. A lot of African American Muslims, when they're preaching about Islam, they're preaching within it Arab nationalism, but don't know it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And ironically, when Islam was spreading amongst black people were attracted to it because of its militant propensities and its ability to make a culture of discipline and these type of things, right? The second that foreigners got into our stuff, it started becoming dogmatic. Salafiyya in the 90s, we didn't really care about no Asharis or anything. We were calling the people to Allah. We're calling people to Islam. We're calling people to, be righteous and not commit zina and not sell drugs and all that kind of stuff, right? Then all of a sudden it became about this ultra dogmatic movement. Who's a deviant and who's not a deviant, right? And with that, we started disrespecting scholarship that looked like us and replacing them with who?
The Arabs and other nationalities.
With the Arabs. So much so that any Arab that could, stumble through 2 sentences of English would be made the imams of masajid in black neighborhoods. As long as he had a beard and a throat. Right? Case in point, Abu Muhammad al-Maghribi.
He's ignorant too.
Yeah.
Some people might not like that. He's very ignorant. That's not my statement. That's the statement of Sheikh Salih Suhaimi, who's out of himself, said he's very ignorant.
Yeah.
Muhammad Maghribi. And it's on YouTube. It's on the internet. No one wants to translate it.
Person that don't look like us, anybody, literally anybody that don't look like us, but can stumble through 2 sentences of English and Arabic together, they can come over and take over the community like this. Omar Quinn, Musa Richardson, Hassan Somali.
That's right.
Abu Muhammad al-Maghribi. That's a Somali, not even from the West at all. He's from Cardiff somewhere. Why isn't he an imam in Cardiff? Why? Why? You think they'll let him be an imam in Cardiff?
No, don't have the qualifications.
No. But he can
Don't have the qualifications.
Come to Negroes in the West and take over an entire neighborhood because he don't look like us. Self-hate.
Yeah.
Self-hate.
Self-hate.
You get me?
Self-hate is deep. Even the statement of Abu Muhammad Maghribi. Listen.
Go ahead, CEO. Go ahead,
Can I do you one better? Because you brought up can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we hear you.
Can you hear me? Yeah, I do you one better. If the white man had have done everything that, this is going to sound crazy to some people. They're really going to call me a nationalist now. But if the white man had did everything that the black man has done in Islam, he would have built a museum for his accomplishments.
Yes. That's big facts. That's big facts.
Think about it.
Bro,
the white man would have made a museum and he would have collected all the historical artifacts.
Yeah.
The first man, he would have got the dirt where the first person stood and gave the call to prayer.
Yeah.
He would have collected artifacts from the 1700s.
Yeah.
He would have gathered up everything from the Nation of Islam, from the Moors, from everything. He would have put it in a museum so everybody could see what he could accomplish.
What he accomplished, right? Bro, white folks.
We would never do that because we would never do that because we don't see ourselves as actually done anything or accomplished anything.
Yeah.
But the truth is, the white people have done that already. Museums. They have in their museums. They have how they destroyed the Muslim world. They have that stuff in the museums.
Yeah, they have
Lawrence Arabia, his accomplishments.
And they never let us forget who their heroes are. Their heroes who are our killers are on all of their currency. All of it. They put the Benjamin Franklins and the George Washingtons and every single murderous demon that they love. They don't let us forget that. They don't let us forget that. They don't let us forget in Canada. They don't let us forget John A. McDonald. You kidding? You kidding? They're proud of their murderers.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So these folks, alhamdulillah, because Allah, He sent the Quran and He sent the Prophet ﷺ with the truth. You know what I mean? So we don't have to be holden to popular opinion, and it's an honor. It's an honor before Allah that Allah, has put us in this job to stand up for the truth. You know what I mean? That's a great honor, right? So it's up to us really to to raise our standards, because we're not going to be popular. It's just not going to happen. It ain't going to happen. So we are the ones who have to raise our standards, right? And it only takes a small group of us in order to get the ball going. You get me? This is crazy, bro. These folks, like the entire time, this lady is talking about, the Muslims are now aligning themselves with white supremacists against the LGBTQ, and Muslims are like, why are you calling us the white supremacists? And we're the only ones saying, yes, you are actually white supremacists. Like, duh, you don't know? You don't know? Where were you 10 years ago, 20 years ago when all this stuff was? Where were you? It wasn't until the white supremacists start saying something. Now you guys are out in the forefront trying to say something.
You know why they're doing that also? You know why they're also doing that? Because, Muslims are not stupid. They're smart. They know the next president election, the Republicans are going to get back in the house. You're going to get a Republican president. So they're trying to get on his good side. They're doing their best to get on the good side.
I don't really think that the Muslims are really that savvy. I think that since the West started allowing Muslim immigrants here, it's always been trying to get close to whiteness. That's always been the case, right? So much so that they are even willing to lose their own identity to be white. They don't want anything to do with blackness. Remember when Malcolm X died, the same Muslims that said that Malcolm X was a kafir, right, when he died, and they would not allow him to be buried in their masajid. They would not give him a janazah. Malcolm X or Himalaya had a janazah from a Christian church, black Christian church. They were the ones who were giving it to the janazah. These same Muslims now are claiming Malcolm X. The same people.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
They claiming him big time. Not just a little bit, big time. They're even having shows about him. Nostalgia, all about Malcolm X by the immigrant Muslims, the same people who didn't want him to have his janazah in the Muslim community because they was afraid of the white folks
who stand up when it's convenient, but they're not willing to feel pain in order to stand up. You get me? They're not willing to do that. The pain is for us. We do all the hard work. We do all the bloodshed and the heavy lifting and all that stuff. And then when the coast is clear, here they come, talking about, yes, human rights. Right?
Opportunists. They're just opportunists. That's all they are, opportunists.
Yeah. So that's, when this Democrat lady was saying these Muslims are aligning themselves with white supremacy, and we say, yes, that happens to be the fact. But the opposite of that is true. You yourself are aligning yourself with white supremacists when you align yourself with liberals anyways. So what you really trying to say?
Even let's go back a little further. I'm gonna go back a little further. President Bush Senior, when he was the president of the United States, and also remember he was the head of the CIA also, right? You remember he was also for Muslims at the same time killing Muslims. He lost to Clinton because he said that the Palestinians the Jews, Israelis have to respect the Palestinian in their state. He said this, right? When he was running against Clinton, right? But at the same time, George Bush Sr. is initiated Desert Storm. Was killing Muslims. So all those Muslims who think that they're gonna get with the far right and the Republican Party, oh man, these people will slaughter you. They befriend you in your face and slaughter you also. So
I'll give you one further, bro. I'll give you one further, right? The history of these Easterners with the white supremacists is to submit to the white supremacists. It's always been like that, even hundreds of years ago.
That's true.
It's always been like that. When they were bringing the South Asians from India to the Caribbean to be a race class in order to be overseers over black slaves, why didn't they allow them? Why didn't they take their religion away like they took black people's religion away? Why was it that the Indian was allowed to keep his Islam, but the African wasn't?
Because the Indian wasn't going to fight them. Indian wasn't going to fight white supremacy. They loved them. They looked up to them. They worshiped them. That's the truth. They don't, and they know that. And they know that. They know that. They know that. They worship them.
The Indian, he's Muslim. The African, he's Muslim. The Indian can keep his Islam. The African must, by force, become Christian. Must be forced to become Christian. Because it was the Muslims, even way back, the very first rebellion, slave rebellion in the West took place in Brazil. And you know what the name of that rebellion was called? It's called the Muslim Rebellion.
The Muslim Rebellion, yeah.
The Muslim Rebellion. This is what these white folks know about black Muslims. That's what they understand. It was the Muslims who were fighting them. Who are the gullahs in Florida? The Muslims. The gullahs. The Muslims were fighting these white supremacists. That's why black folk weren't allowed to keep their religion. But the Indian was allowed to keep his because Indians, South Asians, historically have always worshipped whiteness. It's ingrained in them.
It's part of the Hindu culture, which they brought along to Islam.
It's part of their culture. Yeah. So now, fast forward to World War I. What do Muslims from the subcontinent of India, what did they say about the involvement of Saudis in terms of the fall of the Ottoman Empire? What did they say?
They hate Saudi because of that.
That's what they say, right? Who's always saying? Who's always talking about the Wahhabis and stuff, and they portrayed the Ottomans? Who's always talking about that?
That guy from your country, from Trinidad, Indian guy.
There's always some right?
Imran Hussein, what's his name? Imran Hussein, what's his name? He hates people for passion.
Imran Hussein, right? You want to see something? Want to see something? Let me show y'all something. Okay, y'all ain't gonna believe this.
But he come with some facts, though.
You won't believe it. If I say it, you won't believe it. So I can't say it. I'm gonna. But
he come with some facts, though. He come with some facts.
I'm gonna show. Okay, because black people, we don't care like that. We really don't care like that. You know what I mean? Because it's not our history, right? We don't know anything about no Ottoman Empire. We didn't become Muslim because of the Ottoman Empire. It's y'all who always telling us the Wahhabis and the Ottomans, right? You are making it important for us, right? Since you made it so important, okay, let's talk about it. Shall we talk about it today? Let's talk about it. Let me show y'all something, okay? Let me show y'all something here. Look at here. Y'all ain't you are going to lose your minds when you see this. Okay? What does that say?
The roles of the Muslim in World War I. Oh, you know, they was Hitler. Oh, they was deep with Hitler, man. No. That's World War II with Hitler.
One. This is
World War I.
Muslims fighting who? Who are they fighting? Who are these Muslims fighting? Are they fighting the British or are they fighting the Ottomans? World War I, they're fighting the Ottomans. How do we know? Let's read the article, shall we?
Oh, the British.
The role of the Muslims in World War I. At least how much? 2.5 million Muslim soldiers and laborers from all over the world fought with the Allied forces with dignity and honor. In World War I, the British Indian Army, British who? Which army?
The British Army.
Y'all are the ones who are telling us about this Wahhabi stuff, right? Well, let's talk about it. We're going to talk about this today. Okay? The British Indian Army numbered over 1.3 million. That's the British Indian Army. And at least 400,000 were Muslims. Y'all can't make this crap up. Did the Saudis have 400,000 Muslims fighting against the Turks? They didn't even have 400,000 people in the entire country in those times. Are you kidding me? 400,000 Muslims fought against the Ottomans. Okay, look at here. You listen to this. Okay, we're not done yet. Okay, the British Indian Army was composed of volunteers who served in France, Belgium, Gallipoli, Saloniko, East Africa, Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Persia. From the British Indian Army, over 53,000 were killed, 65,000 were injured, and 38,000 were missing or taken prisoner. You can't make this crap up. You can't make... You know who they didn't mention in this? The role of Muslims in World War I. Do you know who they didn't mention in this? The Saudis. Ironic, isn't it? And this is the National Muslim War Memorial Trust. Okay? This is in Britain. These Muslims are so proud of the role that they played in bringing down the Ottomans. They're proud of it. They're happy of it. But you never hear these butter biscuits, these bone and biscuits Muslims who love to talk about Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab, love to talk about the Wahhabis. You know, they just kind of conveniently, skip over this part. How convenient. The descendants of these Muslims, they don't want you to forget their role in bringing down the Ottomans. Can you imagine the audacity, the caucasity?
And they definitely, that's like one of their main talking points.
Yeah.
You know, the Desi Muslims, this is one of their main talking points about, you know, what the Saudi did and this and that. But as you show in this article, they did worse.
Way worse. It's not even comparable. It's not even
way worse.
comparable. It's way worse.
But we know this inferiority complex is deep with the Muslim community. You know, even the Muslims in World War II, they were with Hitler.
Yeah,
they was with Hitler too. Hitler also had Muslims in his army, and unfortunately Africans too.
Yeah.
So
this,
you know,
this is just crazy, bro. It's crazy, but the whole point, though, is that these guys are on some serious revisionist history stuff, man. And then they got these are the same people that want to turn around and tell you why you playing victim card. Why are you always claiming racism? Why is everything with you racism? These are the same folks, man. These folks. Can you imagine?
That's 100% true.
They are on some madness, man. 400,000.
And then we never talk about, you know, we never discuss why they're in this country or in Western countries in the first place, Muslims, why they are migrating here. That's the big elephant in the room. That's why I don't respect a lot of them. Because if you look, they abandoned Islam.
My main point is that immigrant Muslims have always, and never forget this. You've seen this. They were spilling their own blood to fight for Zadie. They were fighting white folks' war, okay, to bring down the Ottoman Empire. Then turn around and say, no, it wasn't us, it's the Saudis, right? Then turn around, the same Indo-Pacs, or the same Pakistanis, rather. You know what they did to Bangladesh, man? You know what these people did to Bangladesh, man? Who knows? Man, it's crazy. It's insane. These folks, they taking weapons. Do you know how Pakistan became a nuclear power? Do you know how they became a nuclear power? How they became this huge military power? It's because of what they did to Bangladesh.
For the Brits. Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Like if y'all don't know this stuff, man, we don't have time to go through all this because it's getting late, and my wife is gonna kill me for coming to bed late. It's really, really late. All right, but look up East Pakistan and West Pakistan. Just look that up. You will be shocked. You will be absolutely shocked. These people have zero moral high ground. They shouldn't be telling black folks anything. Not especially
about Islam.
Yeah.
Especially about because they've been Muslim killing each other. Pakistan and Bangladesh, both Muslim countries, Muslims killing each other. That's why I said I personally I don't take nothing from immigrant Muslims. We look where they come from, and they're living here, and how they messed up their own countries because they don't want to follow Islam. I don't take no deen from them. They messed up their own countries.
Says it was brutal. Brutal doesn't even begin to describe what happened between East Pakistan and West Pakistan, now known as Bangladesh. Right? Doesn't even begin to describe it. There are hundreds and thousands. Do you know that hundreds and thousands? This is an era where it called they have a specific name for it, where hundreds of thousands of women from Bangladesh were having babies. You know why they were having babies? We're not talking about one or two. You know what? Hundreds of thousands in the 70s. You know why? Because they were being raped by Pakistani soldiers. Not one or two. Hundreds of thousands. And these babies are getting sent to the West to be adopted by white women in Britain, in Canada, in Australia, in the US. Hundreds of thousands. Because of this war that Henry Kissinger, and I think it was Nixon at the time, they supported militarily. Go read what happened. Go look that war up.
It's brutal, man.
You will be shocked what this is the so-called Muslim country doing this, right? And then when you tell them about that, you watch how defensive they get. Watch how defensive they get. Just mention it to them. What happened between East and West Pakistan? They'll get so defensive, bro. Right?
Even some of the political things going on in their country right now, it's problems.
Yeah,
some of the political situations. It's crazy.
If the whole point is that if you live in a glass house, you shouldn't throw stones. How dare you point a finger at black folk when you have this horrific stain on your history in which some of these soldiers are still alive today, living free with their families. The soldiers are involved in this. They're alive today with their children and their grandchildren, and some of them with their great-grandchildren. Alive! You get me? But you want to talk to us about, you know, how we should do stuff. Like, this is crazy, man. It's insane, man. But brothers and sisters, look at here. As you can see, we are no longer being monetized by YouTube. YouTube cut us off by monetization. So you guys are the ones who have to support the channel. Okay? You can support it on Patreon. You can support it on PayPal, and you can support it on Wellsuppo. Right? We went late tonight, and inshallah we'll go again tomorrow, inshallah. And I'd like to thank the brothers who joined us today. Anything else you want to say before you go, Abu Bakr? Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here, but I'm good, man. MashaAllah. Barakallahu feekum.
Yeah. So the brothers asking for the cash app. You can see it right there. It's the Hard Knocks University tuition fees. That's the cash app right there. ws.cash / the features. And let me just get this thing here. But yeah, I mean, I didn't even mean to get into all that history and stuff, but it's because I know a lot of black people, they don't know this. They think that we are out here answering to foreigners and stuff just for the sake of answering to them. And I'll tell you, it ain't even like that, man. Allah is the haqq. Allah is the truth. You know what I mean? We need to look out for ourselves because nobody else is going to look out for us. So jazakumullah khair. I'll see y'all tomorrow, inshallah. Subhanak wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Like, share, hit subscribe. See y'all later. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.